Hey, welcome to the next video in our site build series where we're going from nothing to a completed site with hundreds of articles and affiliate links on it. We've done a lot so far. We've gotten our niche, home decor. We've done lots of keyword research. We have 600 articles to write. We have our domain name. We've chosen our host. We're going with Cloudways. And now we're actually going to spin up a server on Cloudways, attach our domain to it, and then do an initial WordPress install. In the next video, we'll go through WordPress and actually start adding plugins that I recommend and whatnot. So you want to go to Cloudways, you want to log in. And when you log in, you'll see this, unless they've changed their interface, you'll see this thing called Add Server up here. And then you'll select an application. So we're going to go down here and select WordPress. And we'll give this a name. Think of the applications as your actual domains, your sites, the things running on the server. And then we can give the server a name. So the domain we registered on Namecheap is the design affair. So I'm going to take that and I'm just going to give that the application name right there. And then we'll give this server a name, and I'll just call it new server for now. And you can assign this to projects if you want to, but we're not going to do that. Now you got to select what server size you want. You can always increase this later. Like you can go into your server if it's getting maxed out and you can bump this up if you want to. What you can't do is bump it down. Now you might be tempted to go on the 1 GB plan at $14 a month, but to be honest, I really recommend the $28 plan, especially if you're going to put multiple websites on here. If you're just doing one website and you're not going to get any traffic, then maybe the 1 GB plan for $14 a month is probably fine. But if you want to put on like 10 sites or 15 sites or something, at the very least do 2 GB. Now there's two options. There's one with standard cores and there's one with faster. I think there are Xeon cores. So I recommend going with the faster, obviously. And this will give you, so 2 GB of RAM and a 1-core processor. Unlike a shared server, right, you are allowed to max this out 100% if you want to. Now, it would slow down if it's maxed out 100%, but you're not going to get like an alert from this Cloudways company saying, oh, you know what, you better reduce your CPU usage because you're going to be in trouble. No, there's no penalty for maxing this thing out or for using it 100% all month long. That's what's really cool about cloud hosting. So we can use this as much as we want. So I recommend the 2 GB plan with the faster cores. You can put on a lot of WordPress sites with this, no problem at all. You select your location. I'm in the US, I'm catering to US people, so pick something in the US. New York would be good. So this doesn't necessarily need to be something near you, but probably near where your visitors are going to be originating from. That's all you got to do. And you click launch now. The cool thing is you are not going to pay $28 right now a month for this server. You're paying hourly for this server. So if you get into it and 3 days from now, you're like, I really don't like this. I don't want to use Cloudways, or I'm not happy with whatever. You can cancel, shut down the server, and you've only paid hourly for this thing. So that $28 divided by 30 days, and you're paying less than $1 a day for this server. So that's what's really cool about this. You only pay for literally the amount of time that you use the server. So this is going to provision right now. We'll let it do its thing, and then it would be all ready to go. While we're waiting, what you want to do is open up Namecheap and find your domain that we re-registered and click on manage, because we're going to have to point this domain somewhere in the DNS settings. So you want to click on your domain, find it in here, scroll down, and then find this name server area and click custom DNS. Now we want to go over here to Cloudflare. Now don't get this confused with Cloudways. Cloudflare is something called a CDN. It's a content delivery network, and it's completely free for what we're going to do. There's several benefits. First of all, we can put our domain on Cloudflare, right? And Cloudflare will protect it from attacks. It will also host a lot of our images around the world, so our site actually goes faster. But also because it's hosting those images in its own cache, we're saving bandwidth. So our server over here, we only get, I forget what it was, like 3 terabytes a month. And that's actually a lot of bandwidth right there. But Cloudflare will host a lot of that content for us. So we're saving on bandwidth. The other really cool thing is it hides your IP. Your IP now, from Google's perspective or a visitor's perspective, is no longer your server IP. Your IP is now going to be this Cloudflare IP. So you're actually hidden. So if you want to spin up a lot of different sites, Google won't know that they're all made by you, that they're all related. And also someone can't like then do a reverse IP and see what other sites are hosted on your server because they don't have your server IP. So we're using Cloudflare for that. It's completely free to sign up for an account. So you'll sign up for an account and you'll go over here and click on websites and we'll add a domain. I have a bunch of websites already added. I've hidden those. Can't reveal all my secrets, right? We'll click add a domain. So we want to give it the domain name that we registered on Namecheap. Now, I don't use www. I recommend that you don't either. We're just going to use the straight domain name. And we'll click on Design a Fair, paste it in there, and we'll continue. And it's going to say, hey, let's pay some money. And I say, no, I don't want to pay money. We're going to do free. Access denied. What in the world? I don't know why I did that. And actually, let me take a step back. I've explained some benefits of Cloudflare, but let me explain conceptually what it is. So normally, if I'm going to go visit this domain right here, designeraffair.com, I would put it, I or you would put it in your browser, URL bar up here, and then we would connect directly to the server that's hosting that site. But by using Cloudflare, we're no longer connecting directly to this server right here. We're going to connect to Cloudflare, which is going to proxy that connection to this IP address, to this server. So Cloudflare is acting as a middleman between us and the server. And that's why it can do like a lot of bot protection. It can do a lot of security protection against denial of service attacks. That's why it can host a lot of those images from our site all around the world and save us on bandwidth, because it's acting as that middleman or middle person between us, our actual home computer, and the server. So that's why we're using this. A lot of benefits to it. So now what we need to do is configure our DNS settings. This can seem a little overwhelming, but it's really not hard. If you're doing this with a brand new domain, all right, then it should and you're doing this from Namecheap, you're replicating what I'm doing, it should look like this. What we're going to do is delete a couple things in here. Let's delete our text entries. And we're going to delete these MX records, or our mail records. Later on, if I remember, I'll show you how to set up mail on here through. That's the other thing why I recommend using Cloudways as opposed to like PeakFreak, for instance. Cloudways has an add-on in their platform for adding an SMTP server, which PeakFreak does not. At least on the free plan, it does not. Cloudways is miles ahead in terms of for the average person, the average Joe. So we'll delete all these records. All right, and before we continue to activation, I want to change this A record. I want to put in our site IP address. So I go to Cloudways right now. And just to recap, we've deleted everything except for the A record and the CNAME record. So now we go to Cloudways, and let me click on my server so I can get my IP. Why is this blurred? I got a blurred toolbar, but I'm not sure why. Clear all. So I've copied the server IP, or the IP to the actual server on Cloudways. And I go over here and I paste it in for our A record. So now it's going to say this domain name is going to map to this particular server IP. And then we want to change the www to map to this right here. Update your name servers. Now what we need to do one more thing. We need to take these name servers and put them in this box inside of Namecheap. So Namecheap is, and I don't know all the technical stuff of how it all works, but Namecheap is where we've bought the domain and they're our registrar. And we're telling Namecheap what DNS server to use when people try to visit this domain. So we copy these name servers, we go to Namecheap, we put it in there, copy the second one, we put it in right here. So don't forget to click this save thing. Yeah, got to click that. Now it says it can take up to 48 hours to take effect. Usually it's a lot quicker than that, but we'll press continue over here. We're done at Namecheap now. We've done everything. We can actually close this. We've done everything we need to do over there. We'll click continue, because now These records that we're updating right now are called DNS records. And right now, like normally without using Cloudflare, you would manage all your DNS records on Namecheap, right? But now that we're having Cloudflare manage our domain, we're going to change all of the DNS settings through Cloudflare. Now the domain is still registered with Namecheap. We haven't lost that, but we're now using this middleman, Cloudflare, to manage everything. So let's see, update your name servers. It's pending name server updates. I think it's just taking a few seconds to ping as active. Let's see what we can do over here. Oh, I guess while we wait, one thing we're going to need to do is when we actually add this domain now to Cloudways, we're going to have to turn on the SSL certificate, but it won't work if we have SSL turned on here while we're trying to do that. So while we wait, we can go over here to SSL and press configure, and we're going to turn it off right now. We're going to turn SSL off. Now we will want to turn that back on once we get the domain connected to Cloudways. But for right now, we're going to have it off. So I'm going to pause the video right now and just wait for this thing to update, because there's really nothing I can do right now until this is updated. It should, usually it's pretty quick, so we'll just wait it out a little bit. So I just waited it out a few minutes. Now it's active. And so we can go to the SSL right now and just double check. Yep, the encryption is currently off, which is what we want for what we're going to do now. So let's go over here to Cloudways. And remember, we've already added our Cloudways server to the DNS on Cloudflare, all right? So we look down, here's our records right now. The A name for designer affair is going to our server, and we're redirecting using a C name, the www, to our root domain. So let's go over here to, let's see, we're in our server right now. We want to create an application. So remember, applications are the sites, the websites on the server. Let's see if we can do that. Actions, my applications. We'll click on this, and then you'll see your site over here, your WordPress install that we set up when we created that server. Now, in the future, if you want to add any more websites to that server, you just click Add Application. You can add as many WordPress installs as you want to your server. You're only limited by your RAM, your CPU usage, and your storage and transfer. So we'll click on this right now, and now we can see all of our details in here. First thing I want to do is go to our domain. Now, the first thing I want to do is connect our domain to the site. So we'll click on Domain Management, and we'll add a domain. So the domain is designaffair.com. And we're not going to add the add as wildcard because we're not dealing with subdomains. That's beyond the scope of this. So it's going to add the domain right now. And then right now, this domain is not our primary. If we actually want to see what our site looks like, the WordPress install, it would be at this address right here. That's our WordPress site right now. So we want to get this WordPress site that we've installed on our server, all right, pointing to this domain now. So we're going to go over here, click this and say make primary, set as primary. All of this, again, will only work if we've pointed our domain to this IP address of our server. This is a very important step. If you don't do this, none of what I've showed you will work. So it's going to update this right now. It should just take a minute. That's all set up. Now we'll go over here to SSL certificate. We want to get that set up, and we're going to use Let's Encrypt. That's the default. Then we want to give this an email address. This doesn't really matter so much, but I'm going to give it the email.design affair@matthewzimmerman.com. There we go. It took a second. And the domain name. So we're not doing www. We're just doing the standard domain, designer affair.com, and install certificate. Now this can take a few minutes to do it. And remember, this will only work if you've gone over here first and you've gone into this SSL area and we've disabled your encryption. And that way this will work a heck of a lot better. It won't really work, and you'll have all kinds of problems when you try to visit the domain when this is not configured with it off to begin with. So the certificate is successfully installed, and this is going to auto renew. Now we can go to our domain and check designeraffair.com. We can check. So it's not working right now. I think that's also because of the SSL. So let's go over here and we're going to activate on Cloudflare. I think we're going to put on full. We've set it on full. And now let's check it out. Let's delete our cookies for the site, cookies and site data. Let's go to an incognito, right? New private window. There we go, it loads up. So it's just the cookies are bad on, there we go. Sometimes it just takes a minute. I found just a piece of advice. I found if you don't do it exactly how I did it, if you try to install this certificate with this turned on, then you have all kinds of issues and you don't really know what the issue is. Is it something over here? Is it something over here? Is it something with your cookies? So again, just to hammer the point home, turn off the encryption here, the SSL over here, enable it over here, turn it back on over here, clear out your cookies or give it a minute, and then it should load up just fine. So yeah, we have WordPress installed. Let's go to our access details. And here's the admin panel. And we are going to copy our username and copy our password and log in. There we go. We have WordPress set up. How cool is that? So that's all you have to do to get WordPress set up. Now let me poke around in the Cloudways menu, show you some different options inside of here that you can play with at your leisure. You can stage your site. We're not going to do that, but you can do a staging of your site. There's monitoring. You can check the monitoring out, like traffic, see who's accessing it, look at all your different logs. You can scan for vulnerabilities. There's bot protection. I've actually found that ZimmWriter will have problems uploading to your site if this is enabled. So whenever you're going to upload content to your site, you'll want to come in here and disable this during the upload process. But then you can come back and turn this back on when you're all done. Let's see, what else can you do? This backup is really cool. I forgot to mention, let me talk about this for a moment. Cloudflare can do automatic server backups, and you don't do individual site backups. It will just do incremental server backups. Let me show you the backups right now. We'll go over here and click our server that we created. So here's our server. And if we click on backups over here, you can schedule the backup. So these would be off-site backups, and every gigabyte of storage that you're using for your offsite backups will cost 3 pennies a month. So you can say at 5 a.m. in the morning, I want a backup. And what's your frequency? I want 1 backup a day, and I'm going to retain the backups for 1 week. So it's like a rolling cycle here. You'll always have 7 backups, all from the previous 7 days. What I do for my other server is I'll do 2 weeks of backups. And I believe they're also incremental backups too. I don't do local backups because this will just eat up your disk space, but otherwise these are going to be offsite backups. And that's so important. That's another thing that a lot of people don't think about. If you use some of these other hosting providers, a lot of them are not doing offsite backups. If this server fails, if this server dies right here, and your backups are just local on the server, then you've lost all of your sites. But now with offsite backups, you just spin up a new site and you can load your backups instantaneously. It's phenomenal. Very cool thing to do. There's vertical scaling, and this is to go up. It says recommended 4 gigabytes or higher for production websites. You don't really have to listen to this that much. If you start seeing that you're using too much server usage in here, so you can check it by clicking on the monitoring over here. So we're using like 548 megabytes out of 192. Realize that if we add another site, this won't like double. It doesn't quite double. It might go up another 50 megabytes or something like that, because you can look at your application details. The memory that this is using is 45 megabytes. So a lot of this other memory is going to be your PHP workers that are loaded in the memory. So just adding another site is not going to double this. So you can put a couple sites on this 2 gigabyte plan. Right now it's 12% CPU usage, but it's really not doing anything right now. It might just be indexing or something. Usually for my site or my server that has 5 different sites on it, I'll see the percentage at 1% a lot when there's no traffic on there. And then the disk usage. So really cool functionality and features. You can always vertically scale up if you want. You just can't scale back down. What other stuff can we do in here? I don't really mess with the other stuff, but there's a lot of options. And then we can also do SMTP with Elastic Email. I'll show you how to do that later on. That's it for this video. We've walked through the whole process of connecting your domain at Namecheap to Cloudflare, and then going from Cloudflare to Cloudways. Everything's all set up. We can access our domain now. And also let's check this too. www. It should redirect to this main domain. Yes, it does. Fantastic. So we have all we need. Next video, we're going to go into setting up all of the recommended plugins inside of WordPress. If you're just getting started, you just joined our video, go back and watch the first couple videos, do this project along with me so that at the end you have your own site set up and you'll feel like you've accomplished something cool. You'll see how easy it is to spin up lots of these different sites. There's links in the description down below to ZimmWriter. There's links to some affiliate programs for SiteGround, for Cloudways, for Keyword Chef, and everything else. There's also a link to my 13,000 member Facebook group. Definitely check it out. Hey, I hope to see you in the next video. Good luck with your content generation. I'll see you in a minute.